has been planted.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's been 2 weeks since 3.4 and I think the meta is just starting to settle now. After through so much pain of Mago Genki, we finally get to refresh and see which decks come out on top. And it seems to be that Klee still hasn't gotten hit hard enough by the nerfs, still being one of the top decks. And we've emerged with two other top decks, which are Klee Vaporize and Ganyu Freeze. Which the main topic for this video is now Klee Vaporize. So, let's get on with the deck. So, if you've seen from my previous Klee video, the Klee TCG, that was actually really fun to make. This was the deck that I've been using most of the video, except for that times where I had to use Jean. That was the first experimental deck when the patch came out. But I think the meta started to converge into these three characters. Sometimes we'd replace Xingqiu with Mona, but I prefer the Xingqiu method more. Anyways, before we continue, here's just a quick rundown on how much the deck would cost, how many coins it'll take for you to spend on this deck. Feel free to pause the video to check it right now on your screen. Anyways, let's now head back to the deck. So as we can see, we run the Klee, Xingqiu, and Bennett. So it's 2 Pyro and 1 Hydro, and we're running the usual interesting cards such as Paimon, Liben. We're running Chang the Ninth for extra card draw and other items. Since we're running Pyro Resonance, it'd be a waste not to get these two, especially since we are a Vaporized deck. We want to use this Pyro Resonance to the fullest. The usual Travel Companion just to fix our dice, Strategize being here, and other useful utility cards just to keep our stuff alive. I think what's more important here is that the deck actually uses Liu Su and Star Signs for Xingqiu and has priority of Klee's talent card, which kind of focuses like how Klee Quicken works. We want Klee to get their talent card, we want to mull to these cards. Except that we want to mull to Liu Su and Star Signs first. Moving on into the game plan for this deck, the reason why I do wanted to focus again on Liu Su and Star Signs is because the deck wants to prioritize getting Xingqiu's burst off. As much as possible, you want to get this burst as early as possible, even on turn 1. So if you have a Liu Su or a Star Signs, that'll allow you to burst right away on turn 1 or turn 2, depending if you want to play a Paimon or Liben in between. So just make sure on how you start. You'll always start with Xingqiu. If you have Star Signs, start out with Benny if you're running Liu Su, which actually helps you more on the long run as you swap from Xingqiu to maybe Benny or Klee. The game plan from there is pretty simple. As long as you have your swords, it doesn't matter if your Xingqiu dies. If your Xingqiu dies and you have the Ito card, it'll be useful for you also, but that really doesn't matter as much. What we want to take advantage of is Klee's special explosive spark, which in here states that when the character is attached, uses a charge attack, it spends 1 less pyro and deals 1 damage. So how do we get a charge attack? Basically, a charge attack allows us to turn our normal attacks into charge attacks if our dice is even. So if you notice, after doing 1 charge attack, your dice will still be even. After doing a normal attack, your dice goes from even to odd or odd to even since its cost is 3. Just want to use the other cards in the deck to make sure we reduce to the 2 just to make sure our explosive spark gets properly used. And the reason why we like to have Klee's talent card is because we get 2 usages on this. So as much as possible, you want to get these Hydro applied onto your opponents with either the Fatal Rain Screen or Rain Cutter, mainly Rain Cutter from Xingqiu using the burst, and basically shoot everyone down using your Klee's charged attacks. As much as possible, just do the skill once and then perform special charged attacks continuously. If you need to burst with your Klee, feel free to do so. It's actually very useful as it can total a total of 5 damage right away before you even head to your turn. 3 from you and 2 from your opponent. If your opponent doesn't choose to do anything, then that's still your win. Benny's here mainly for the Pyro Resonance, and he is the best support card for are Klee Vaporize at this point. I'm still thinking if a 2 Pyro agent does it better as just a second Vaporize thing, but I think Bennett just helps, especially for Inspiration Field from his Fantastic Voyage, allowing us to deal big damage numbers with Klee, probably nuking one of these people out of existence, especially using the Pyro Resonance card. But otherwise than that, that's pretty much how the deck goes. You really want to start off with Xingqiu, get his burst up as quickly as possible, and then burst everyone down with your Klee, keeping your Klee alive using Bennett and Lotus Crisp. If you can get more energy and dice through Liusu, Star Signs, Parametric, Liben, and Paimon, that is also best. So now let's move on to the pros and cons of the deck. I think for the pros of the deck is, once again, this is one of the competitive decks. It can kill on turn 2. It is that fast. May not be as fast as Call a Quicken, but this is very explosive. This deck is pretty dice efficient, if you ask me, because of how Klee works. Since dice is always coming as 8 dice, basically using Klee's Spark, or what was it called? Let me just check. Jumpty Dumpties. Basically, you get a discount on one of your charge attacks at least. So that allows you to perform 3 skills on Klee rather than just doing 2 skills and passing the turn and casting some other random cards or swapping out. So that's pretty much for the pros. It is also dice efficient. And actually, I really like this. This is a bit more, I guess it is a pro and a con, but this is something that I think players that love a bit more complexity like, because you get to play around and make sure you juggle your dice around. So yeah, still dice efficient. Now moving into the cons, I don't think it's as intuitive for players to play this deck. Actually, it takes time when you think about it. Even just the odd and even mechanic, it'll take your brains to tangle and just make sure you get to juggle this Klee benefits nicely. And at the same time, you might end up letting your Xingqiu die very easily. This deck is actually really fragile if you just allow your opponent to hit you continuously. So if you're not using your dice efficiently, you're just going to be a sitting duck and take too many hits. And especially since you have options on the deck to swap from Klee or Bennett, it sometimes gets confusing on what to do. But that's okay. I think that's still like a workable around con. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the deck. I hope you enjoy the idea for Klee Vaporize. I think I wanted to make the TCG EXE video first before making this deck guide, which is why it's pretty late. But I hope you enjoyed both that video. If you haven't gone and checked that video, feel free to check it out. And this video, and most likely expect an updated Call a Quicken guide and a Ganyu freeze, and perhaps an updated Noel hypercarry, since it is also making rounds all around these other tournaments. Yeah, I think that's it for now. That's pretty much it. Alright, see ya!